Today I wanted to talk about something that doesn't get talked about enough. A lot of people don't fail in business because they aren't smart, and they don't fail because they aren't capable, and they don't fail because they didn't want it badly enough. They fail because at some point they stop learning. Not intentionally and not dramatically, but quietly. Learning gets replaced with, oh, I'll figure that out, or I'll come back to that, or I should know this by now. And what happens next is pretty subtle. The business doesn't collapse, it doesn't explode, it just stalls. If you've ever felt like you're doing the work, you're showing up, you're trying things, but you're starting to feel stuck or slow, then this video is for you. Because today I wanted to talk about how to learn while you build your business, especially if you don't have endless time, especially if you started later in life, and absolutely especially if the pressure is feeling heavier now than it ever did before. And stay with me because later I'm going to explain the exact shift that finally made learning feel manageable instead of overwhelming for me. If you're new here, my name is Celine. I'm a mom of two, a nana to three. I live on Vancouver Island in British Columbia, Canada. And I want to be very clear about something right from the start. I didn't start a business because it sounded exciting. I didn't start because I wanted a hustle. And I didn't start because I had endless extra time on my hands, because I work full time. I started because I looked at my future, really looked at it, and I realized I didn't like the uncertainty that I was seeing. I was short on retirement at the time, not because I was irresponsible and not because I didn't work hard, but because life just happened for me. A lot of life. I spent years raising a medically fragile child. There were seasons where working wasn't even optional. Later in life, I went back to school in my 30s and then worked full time while I went to software engineering. And then I got my commerce degree all while working. And even after all that effort, I still found myself farther behind than I wanted to be. So when I talk about learning while building, this isn't theory. I've actually done it. This is living experience. Because learning later in life while juggling responsibilities, fear, health, family, and time pressure hits very differently than learning when you're 22 with no real consequences. So the stakes are higher, learning feels heavier, and here's something we don't talk about enough. When you're younger, learning feels experimental almost. Trying things, if you mess up, you pivot. But later in life, learning feels almost riskier because now there's a clock in the background. You're not just asking, will this work? You're asking, can I afford to not work? That pressure changes how people show up. It makes them hesitate. It makes them overthink. And sometimes it makes them avoid learning altogether, not because they don't want to grow, but because they're afraid of wasting time. Learning has to be practical at this stage in life. It can't be abstract and it can't be endless theory. It has to connect directly to the forward movement. So once I understood that, I stopped trying to learn everything and I started learning only what actually moved the needle. That shift alone changed my relationship with learning completely. So why learning is the first thing to go? At the beginning of any business journey, learning feels exciting. You're curious, you're hopeful, you're watching videos and you're thinking, okay, I can do this. But then the doing begins. You're posting content, you're trying to figure out messaging, you're wondering why something didn't work the way you expected it to, and learning quietly shifts from curiosity to pressure. Instead of, I want to learn this, it becomes, I should already know this. And that one word should change everything. Because now learning feels like evidence of failure instead of growth. So people stop. Big mistake. They rely on what they already know. They repeat the same actions that never gave them results in the first place. They avoid experimenting because they don't want to feel stupid or behind. I get it. And this is where business plateaus. Not because the person isn't capable, but because they stop evolving. And if you're thinking, but I don't have time to constantly learn, I want to keep you listening, because that belief is usually based on misunderstanding of what learning actually needs to look like at this stage in life. So one of the most common things that I hear is, I'll focus on learning once things calm down. Here's the hard truth. Things don't calm down until your skills catch up. So confidence comes after competence. So ease comes after understanding, and clarity comes after the learning. So waiting to learn is like waiting to feel strong before you lift a weight. You can't go to the gym and pay for a membership and suddenly be fit. It doesn't work like that. For a long time, I treated learning like something separate from building. Learning was extra, building was the real work. That belief nearly kept me stuck too. What changed everything was realizing this: learning is the work. Applied learning is what creates the momentum. Once that clicked, everything changed. My breaking point and the shift. When I started building online income, I tried to learn everything: funnels, email marketing, content, algorithms, automation, mindset. And I wasn't lazy, I was genuinely trying. But the result was overwhelm. I had notebooks full of notes, saved posts everywhere, courses half finished, and yet I didn't feel clearer. I felt a little heavier. More information wasn't helping me, it was slowing me down. That's when it hit me. I was stuck because I didn't know enough. I was stuck because I didn't know what to ignore and what to really do. It's a hard realization, especially for people who are responsible, capable, and used to figuring things out and solving problems. We assume the answer is always learn more. Sometimes the answer is learn less, but apply what you've learned. I stopped asking, what else should I study? And I started asking, what's the next useful thing that I can put into action to move that needle forward? That one question changed everything. I realized I didn't need more education. I needed a learning path. Things that said, this is what matters first. The learn, apply, reflect, repeat model. This is the framework that I still use today. And it's what you'll learn in the Freedom Formula Blueprint that's listed below. Step 1, learn one thing, one concept, one skill, one focus. Scattered learning creates scattered actions. Step 2, apply it immediately. Not perfectly, immediately. Confidence doesn't come from knowing, it comes from doing. Let me give you a few examples. If I'm learning about hooks, I don't study hooks for a week. I learn one approach, and then I write the post and I use it, implement it, done. If I'm learning about structure, I apply it to the very next piece of content I create. If I'm learning about automation, I don't try to build the whole system at once. I set up one piece and I'm done. Progress doesn't come from mastering everything. It comes from stacking small, usable wins. Step number 3, reflect. What worked? What didn't? What felt easier this time that I've done it? Reflection is where learning becomes permanent. Step 4, repeat it all. Consistency compounds faster than intensity ever will. This is why people with a clear learning path progress faster. They're not guessing what to learn next. How I learn with a full life. People assume learning requires hours of quiet time. It just doesn't. I don't wait for perfect conditions. I learn in real life, and sometimes that means over a cup of coffee or my breakfast, audio while driving, replays while I'm cooking, notes on my phone. Learning isn't about time, it's about intention. Even when I'm going for a walk with the dogs, I'm learning something. So, learning isn't about time, it's about intention. You don't rely on motivation, you rely on those systems put in place. Why community makes learning stick? Learning alone is a lot harder. You question yourself, you overthink everything, and you quit faster. Learning with other people changes everything. One of the biggest gifts of learning in community is normalization. You realize you're not behind. You realize your questions are normal. You realize most people are confused. They're just quiet about it. So many people quit because they think everyone else gets it, but they don't. That's simply not true. Learning together removes shame from the process. Once shame is gone, momentum returns. That's why community matters, especially at this stage in life. The role of the Freedom Formula Blueprint. I'm careful about what I recommend. People don't need more noise, they need a starting point. The Freedom Formula Blueprint isn't about shortcuts. It's about safety. Safety from overwhelm, safety from distractions, safety from constantly wondering if you're doing the wrong thing. It gives people clarity on where to focus, the permission to ignore everything else, all that noise around them. That's why it exists. So if you're still here listening, let me say this really clearly. The fact that you're willing to learn at this stage in life is not a weakness. It's a strength, my friend. It means you're adaptable. It means you're self-aware, and it means that you haven't given up on your future. Learning doesn't mean you've failed before. It means you're choosing forward now. And that choice, repeated constantly, will change everything for you. Decide one thing you'll learn next. Apply it this week. And if you want guidance instead of guessing, the Freedom Formula Blueprint and my community are linked below. No hype, no rush. Just learning, applied one step at a time.